before toothbrushes, toilet paper, and modern hygiene. How did our ancestors survive the mundane, everyday reality of going to the bathroom? Take a look at your bathroom right now. You have a flushing porcelain toilet, running water, and a roll of soft, multiply toilet paper. It is a completely private, sterile, and thoughtless part of your morning routine. Okay, stop. Before you click away, I need you to understand something. This is not a weird video, and it is certainly not a gross joke. This is actually one of the most fascinating, shocking, and deeply human rabbit holes in all of history. And the fact that nobody talks about it in school is exactly why we need to right now. Because here is the cold, hard truth. For hundreds of thousands of years, every single human being has had to deal with the biological reality of bodily waste. Yet, when historians write about ancient empires, they will spend 40 pages detailing how the Romans built their military formations, how they conquered territories, and approximately 0 sentences on how a Roman citizen wiped their backside while living their daily life. Today, we are fixing that. We are going back to ancient Rome and medieval Europe. We are going to find out exactly what our ancestors did, what strange tools they invented, and the absolute cultural shock of how public and dangerous the ancient bathroom experience really was. Let's go. First, let's get a massive misconception out of the way. We assume that because ancient people lacked modern plumbing, they simply did not care about hygiene. But that is completely wrong. Ancient Romans were actually obsessed with engineering cleanliness. They built massive public latrines across the empire, featuring beautifully carved stone benches and running water systems. But if you were to walk into a Roman public toilet 2,000 years ago, your modern boundaries of privacy would instantly shatter. There were no cubicles. There were no dividers. It was just a long stone bench with 20 to 30 holes cut into it, positioned side by side. Citizens would sit right next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, casually chatting about politics, market prices, and theater gossip while relieving themselves. Going to the bathroom wasn't a private, hidden act. It was a highly social, collective experience. But the real shock comes when you ask the question, what did they use to clean themselves? The answer is a tool called the tersorium, also known as the xylospongium. And it is the centerpiece of this historical tragedy. A tersorium was a simple wooden stick with a natural sea sponge securely tied to one end. Because the Mediterranean offered easy access to sea sponges, this material was the premium choice for absorbency and softness. But here is the catch. The tersorium was not your personal property. It was public infrastructure. When a Roman citizen was finished, they would reach down into a small gutter of running water carved into the floor right in front of their feet. They would grab the communal wooden stick, wash it in the running water, or dip it into a bucket filled with heavily concentrated salt water or vinegar, wipe themselves, and then drop it back into the bucket for the next stranger to use. Let that sink in for a second. The very same sponge was shared by hundreds of random citizens, travelers, and soldiers every single day. If we look at this through the lens of modern medicine, it is a biological horror movie. While the salt and vinegar acted as a primitive disinfectant, it did almost nothing to stop the spread of severe bacterial infections. These public toilets, despite their advanced plumbing and running water, were massive breeding grounds for intestinal parasites, cholera, and dysentery. And the danger did not stop at bacteria. Ancient latrines were built directly over deep, dark sewer systems where organic waste accumulated for months. Without proper ventilation traps, toxic gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide would build up beneath the stone benches. It was not uncommon for a stray spark from a nearby torch to ignite the methane gas, causing literal explosions right beneath a citizen's seat. Furthermore, rats, spiders, and even snakes would regularly climb up through the holes, biting unsuspecting citizens at their most vulnerable moments. It was so terrifying that Romans actually painted images of Fortuna, the goddess of luck, on the walls of their latrines to protect them from the demons of the underworld. Yet, just like every other era, the class divide in Rome was stark. Wealthy aristocrats rarely, if ever, set foot in these explosive public latrines. Rich Roman families had private toilets inside their villas, connected to their own private drainage systems. And instead of the shared communal sponge, they used fine linen cloths, soft wool, or their own private, heavily washed sea sponges prepared by household slaves. The poorer, however, had to risk the public latrine, or resort to using whatever stones, leaves, or broken pieces of pottery they could find on the streets. When the Roman Empire collapsed, The concept of centralized plumbing vanished from the Western world for nearly 1,000 years. And during the Middle Ages, the situation went from highly public to utterly chaotic. In medieval European towns, public toilets were practically non-existent. People relied on chamber pots kept under their beds. When the pot was full, residents would simply open their second-story windows and throw the raw sewage straight down onto the narrow, unpaved streets below. For the wealthier classes living in stone castles, they built small, cantilevered rooms called garderobes that protruded from the castle walls. Waste would fall directly down the side of the fortress into the moat below. For toilet paper, medieval peasants used whatever nature provided: moss, hay, straw, or large leaves. The nobility, meanwhile, wiped themselves with old rags, sheep's wool, or discarded pieces of expensive fabric. It took thousands of years of trial, error, and devastating disease outbreaks before humanity finally invented the first mass-produced commercial toilet paper in the mid-19th century. And even then, it took decades of aggressive marketing before people overcame the sheer embarrassment of purchasing it openly. We build massive museums to house ancient swords, shields, and gold coins. We make endless movies about generals, conquest, and the grand architecture of the past. But the true history of humanity lives in the quiet, hidden, and vulnerable moments shared by every single generation. The story of the ancient toilet isn't just a gross trivia fact. It is a profound testament to human survival. It shows us how our ancestors used whatever resources they had to solve a universal biological reality, slowly paving the way for the sterile comfort we take for granted today. So tonight, when you walk into your quiet, private bathroom and pull a clean sheet of soft paper from the roll, take a second to appreciate the absolute miracle of modern plumbing. You are living in a state of hygienic luxury that Julius Caesar, medieval kings, and millions of ancient souls could only dream of. What about you? Would you trade your private bathroom and modern toilet paper to live as a high-ranking noble in ancient Rome? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, take care of yourselves and see you soon.